a full-blown, purebred sports controversy on our hands today. We'll get to the Pistons today at 10:30, but people really want to talk about what happened last night in the Boston-Houston game with Mookie Betts leaping up, reaching over the wall. Glove hits a fan. Fan interference is called, and Altuve is ruled out. Runner returns to first instead of a 2-run homer. At the very least, a double. But at the end of the day, they replay it and rule him out, and the rule states that if a player's glove extends over, like if the wall goes straight up and a player's glove extends through that wall into the fan area, the fan is on one side of the wall and the player's on the other, there can't be fan interference. Fan interference is for when the fan leans over the wall. And Jamie's whole argument is, well, I'm sure they didn't intend the rule to be that when a player's glove goes into the stands area, the fans area, that the fan can then literally punch the glove and shake his arm, because under the rules, you're allowed to do that. But you know how I am with rules. I've said, if you're not familiar with the show, I want specific outlined rules so we all know what parameters we're working under. They're all the same for all of us. Like, I want the speed limit to be 78. Everybody drives 78, and if you're at 79, you're speeding, you get a ticket. If you're going to allow us to drive 78, damn it, make the speed limit 78. I hate the fact, well, hate is a strong word. I find it confusing that I could get pulled over going 78 one day and not the other, right? That can literally happen.
I guess it depends if there's a police officer around to catch you.
Just make it 78. Everybody's driving 78. 79 is illegal. 78 is fine. But that's a whole nother topic. Let's get to your phone calls. Kevin is on 97.1 The Ticket. Hi, Kevin.
How you doing?
What's up?
Man? Yeah, I'm in agreement with Gator. I don't really have a horse in the race, but I don't see how baseball can have their cake and eat it too, whereas in the Sammy Sosa incident with the Cubs, there was no fan interference on that call, but yet on a home run that's clearly out of the park and you're jumping into the stand, there could be fan interference.
You mean the Bartman thing with the Cubs, not Sammy Sosa, but
And it was Alou? I think it was Alou. But
yeah. Yeah, so on that play, there was no fan interference.
No.
The call stands. But when you're jumping into the stands on a home run, because Joe West makes the call that it's fan interference, you can't overturn the call. That was clearly a home run.
Well, you can overturn the call if there's enough evidence to say that it should be overturned. Like, I think if the replay had shown that the fans were just standing there, not reaching out, and Mookie Betts had gone back and his glove hits a fan in the chest who's clearly behind the railing, and then the ball pops out, I think if the replay showed that, then they have to call it a home run. It's not fan interference. But this one's a little murky because the fans who are standing up are trying to catch the ball, but they're not trying. I don't think they're trying to do it in a way that's going to interfere intentionally with the play.
I agree with that.
I don't know. I understand there's murky. I'm not adamant about it either way. I mean, to me, my first glance looking at the play, I thought should be a home run. After examining it further, I still think it should be a home run. And I think you have to, I don't know, you have to come up with a bunch of different angles to try to suppose that he had, that the fans actually were breaking that invisible barrier. It's 1.5 feet above the line.
248-539-9797. We go to John in Milford. You're on 97.1 The Ticket. Hi, John.
Gentlemen, how are we doing?
Good.
Good, yeah. As far as that play last night goes, I don't think it was much intentional at all. I mean, you got to remember, too, when a ball's coming at you, it's natural reaction, to at least put your hands up and go for it. And I don't think any of them, blatantly reached over the line by any means. But you're going to stand up if a ball's flying at you, coming at you, and you're going to at least put your hands up, if nothing else, to protect yourself. So I fall into that. But as far as the replay goes, that bigger topic you guys are talking about, I think it really comes down to the sport. For baseball, it's odd because this situation we're looking at is one of the only few where I think replay may be good. But otherwise, for baseball, the umpire is part of the game. So in years and years go by, it trickles into, they've even talked about automatic strikes, balls, and calling a game. How crazy would that be? But for baseball, I really think the umpire is a big part of the game. What he calls, he calls. That's the fact of the matter. As far as football goes, replay, the one thing I hate about it is it slows down momentum so much.
Yeah.
And that doesn't affect baseball as much, but football, you're driving the ball, you got 2 minutes left in a game, and then they're over on the sideline for 5 minutes deciding if that was in bounds or not. It can take away all your momentum. So I see it as a little bit more of a negative, I suppose, overall, because we're playing too far into it, but you know, you also can't argue with you need it there to a certain extent too.
Well, here's the thing, John, and I'm glad you brought this up. Again, if replay was going to be in all sports much closer to perfect, I think the wait would be worth it. Right now, it feels like replay leads to a lot of controversy. And, oh, by the way, we stop our games for 2 to 5 minutes at a time to decide on something, you know? And
absolutely.
What are we doing here? What are we doing to our sports? It wasn't perfect before. It's also not perfect now, and it's taking longer. And, look, I gave my reason with the expectation. My expectation before was low, and it was met. My expectation now is high, and it's not met. So I find it very dissatisfying, just as a general rule. Jay on a cell. Hi, Jay.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
How you doing?
I'm good. I got 2 points. One you guys pretty much already made. There just wasn't enough evidence to overturn the call. The security guard was in the one view looking down the line. The security guard was blocking it. Was it a home run? I think absolutely, but there wasn't enough evidence to show whether or not he was over the line or the fans, so they left the call as it is. As far as replay goes, I think there are instances where it's great and there are instances where it falls short. Like, for instance, the tipped ball supposedly last night, the batter supposedly tipped the ball and the umpire thought he tipped it, but in both replay views, the ball doesn't move. It goes into the dirt, into the guy's glove. But that's a non-reviewable play. And, you know, granted he got the guy out, but still. So I think there's other areas that replay could be better.
Jay, thank you for the phone call. Let's go to Steve on a cell. Hi, Steve.
Hey, boys. Good morning. Hey. Gator, I'm pretty much in lockstep with you. You know, they had a thing on MLB this morning. They showed a different view. It was more from a center field shot, and you know, as sure as the sun rises in the east, it was clearly, like you were saying, a couple feet over that line. That said, it's more like the commentary that's going on. Well, the catch would have been made because it was Mookie Betts, and by no means am I comparing these guys to Mookie Betts, but how many times have we seen a ball go off Ken Seiko's glove or his head, for that matter, or Castellanos going in? So that's going into the stands. Who knows if he did make the catch, if the momentum carries his wrist where it hits the top of the wall with the ball popped out of his mitt. It's all speculation. And, yeah, we've got the advantage of, you know, slow motion, double secret, slow motion, and replay. But it's, you know, it's a judgment. But I just don't think, you know, I'm not going to lose sleep over it, and I don't think anybody else is. But it's, I think more so is probably a home run rather than fan interference.
I'm trying to think of this. Are there any parks anymore that have, like, the line on the wall that delineates above this line is a home run?
Yes.
And yet above that line that's not where the fans are, just more of the wall. You know what I mean? Where there's just a wall, on like a yellow line on a wall. Hard for me to articulate it, I guess, because my thought is, if he's going up in that same play and it's just a wall that he's battling instead of fans, I don't think he makes the catch, because I think when he goes into the wall, his glove hits the wall and then collapses much like it does against a fan, and the ball comes loose. Right. Now, but that's not the case. In this, he's battling against fans. Do I think he makes the catch normally? Sure, I think he makes the catch normally. But this is this extenuating circumstance when you have to battle with the fans to get that ball. And as long as the fans aren't doing something intentionally to disrupt the play, which they're not, they're just, hey, I'm standing up in my seat. I'm not leaning forward. I'm just standing up in my seat, going to catch a ball. It's about to land in my lap. I think it should have been ruled a home run. It wasn't. They lost. Did it cost them? Yeah, you can make the argument it cost them because that was 2 runs, and the margin of the game was 2 runs.
There is a situation at Fenway Park in dead center field where 2 walls come together. Mm-hmm. One of the walls is like 50 feet high, and the other wall is like 6 feet high.
Right.
And there's a line straight up where if a player gets back in there, They can literally be reaching up, and there's a line, a yellow line going straight up the wall where you have a player reaching up against a wall that is a home run. If it hits the wall, it's a home run.
Okay, so that's
what you're talking about.
Yeah, because if it's in that situation,
I'll have to try and find a picture of it, but that's my first thought. I remember that very distinctly.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Though, like his glove would bang into the wall, and all of a sudden he can't close it. Right.
Okay. We do get to the Pistons here, but there's people still want to talk about this, so we'll get to your phone calls coming up. Something about the Piston game last night I do want to discuss. We'll get to that at 10:32, and your open line calls 97.1.